Dalton, let's start off with the first game. That is the Fiesta Bowl. Penn State taking down Boise State 31-14. Penn State moves on to the Orange Bowl in the college football playoff semifinal to take on the winner of the Georgia-Notre Dame game that we'll have later this afternoon. Let's go over the grades from this game, starting off with the Nittany Lions. Kaytron Allen was fantastic in this game with a 90.1 grade, the running back from Penn State. Nolan Rucci, the right tackle for Penn State, also fantastic, 87.7 grade. Zakee Wheatley, the safety, 78.4. Amin Vanover kind of had a much bigger role than expected because of Abdul Carter's injury. He played really well in his absence with a 76.6 grade. Tony Rojas, the linebacker, 73.9. And then Drew Aller, the quarterback, with a 69.5 grade. Let's go over to Boise State with their highest graded player, starting off with linebacker Andrew Simpson, 80.8. Prince Strawn with a 76.2 grade. Edge defender Ahmad Hassanin with a 74.3 grade. Safety Seyi Oladipo, 72.4. Cornerback Jeremiah Irby with a 70.3. And quarterback Maddox Madsen with a 57.2 grade. Dolan, for you, the stat that told the story in Penn State's Fiesta Bowl victory.
So I'll start with the debate that I'm sick of hearing after every single playoff game that we have is whether or not said team that lost belonged on the field. I think Boise State absolutely did. I think there were large stretches of this game where they played well, and they're going to go back looking at this tape, feeling like they beat themselves, right? Like this, it's funny because you always have your opponent, you have the team on the other sideline, but there's really two teams that you have to prevent from beating you anytime you walk on a football field. The opposite team, and then yourselves.
Yeah.
And Boise just made too many mistakes to win this game. 4 turnovers, obviously 2 of them late when they were in obvious passing situations, which is where they're the least comfortable. 13 penalties totaling 90 yards, especially one that wiped off a touchdown late in the third quarter. 2 missed field goals from one of the best kickers in the country, Jonah Dalmas, 1 for 4 in the red zone. Look, if those numbers were flipped over to the other side and Penn State committed all those mistakes, it would have been 31-14 Boise. You just can't make that many mistakes in a big game against a really good team and win a football game. So I think, yes, Penn State played well. There's parts of their team that, Drew Aller made 4 big-time throws.
Yeah.
He was really good for the most part. Kaytron Allen's on an absolute burner right now the last couple weeks. The defense, as always, especially in the absence you mentioned of Abdul Carter, they were really good again. But I just think the overriding theme for me in this game is just all of the mistakes the Broncos made and how and even through that, in the third quarter, this was a 3-point ball game, and it just kept kind of piling up on them. And the first thing you have to do in big games is not beat yourself. Boise wasn't able to do that.
And really, to beat Boise State, obviously, you got to beat Ashton Ginty. And Penn State's defense was outstanding doing so with an 80.4 run defense grade in this game. Dolan, James Franklin was asked in his press conference leading up to the Fiesta Bowl what he was focusing on, leading up to that Boise State game. He said, quote, Ashton Ginty. Ashton Ginty, Ashton Ginty, Ashton Ginty. Clearly that paid off because the run defense was spectacular against the Heisman Trophy runner-up. Ginty had a season-low 104 yards. The fact that a season low for him is still over 100 yards is wild, but he did all he could. Honestly, I put out a tweet yesterday saying, listen, Ginty was not the problem. He broke 19 tackles on 33 touches. He broke a tackle on like 58% of his touches. The problem was they manhandled the Boise State offensive line up front. A 44.6 run blocking grade for Boise State, a season low for them. 3.5 yards per carry, also a season low for Boise State. 0.6 yards before contact per attempt. Less than a yard before contact per attempt for Boise State. Ashton Ginty did all he could. I think he had like 80 of his 100 rushing yards came after contact in this game. He really did all he could. The problem was, if he broke one tackle, there were 3 more Penn State defenders ready to tackle him. They did an excellent job of swarming to the football. Incredible discipline by Penn State. Incredible hustle by the Nittany Lions defense as well. This run defense, in the absence of Abdul Carter, your best defender, they still swarm to one of the best players in the country, one of the best running backs we've seen in college football in recent memory. They did an outstanding job of making sure anyone but number 2 beat them.
Absolutely, and what you saw is anytime Ginty broke a tackle, you saw 3 more guys coming.
Right.
3 more Nittany Lions rallying to the ball. I thought Amin Vanover, who was in that top 5, was spectacular off the edge. Denai Dennis Sutton had a good game. Zane Durant inside. Rojas. Kobe King, again, I'm going to keep telling you every week about Kobe King. I don't know if there's any linebacker in the country right now that flows in the run game to the football better than Kobe King does. His grade, his overall grade, a little lower because he struggled in coverage, but in the run game, he was spectacular. I think this is the type of effort that they needed. I think you make a great point about starting off with beating Boise State's offensive line. Any running back is dependent on their run blocking, right? And Ginty's still at over 100 yards, which shows you how special he is. But I think between the offensive line struggles, and I thought it was kind of a stubborn offensive game plan, too, a bit by Boise, especially early in the game. I understand you have to ride your best player. I say it all the time, live and die with your best players. But a little more, I talked about it in the Mountain West title game. Can I get a little more passing on first down?
Yeah.
Just a little bit. Because Maddox Madsen, honestly, for 3/4 of this game, played pretty well. He wasn't playing poorly, and then the 2 interceptions at the end kind of killed the grade. But I just don't – I thought it was a little bit stubborn. I think they really thought they could go out there against this team and Ginty could just carry them to a win, and it's just not how it works, right? I think in most of the games that we've seen – the better trench team is won, right? And we've seen dominant efforts like that. I thought Penn State's defensive line played really well at the first level, and they made Ginty bounce. And even though he broke tackles, they had to keep rallying to the football. And he didn't pull off many explosives, right? He didn't get the 70-yard touchdown that can flip the game. But I thought a little bit stubborn by Boise State. But Penn State's defense, they played a fantastic game.
Yeah, and it really, again, without Abdul Carter, when he went down with that injury early in the game, like we were all like, uh-oh, like what's going to happen with Penn State's pass rush? But they looked really good without him, and then obviously looked really good in the run defense as well. Abdul Carter, I don't know if you saw, don't know if you're a big Star Wars fan, he tweeted out a picture today of Darth Vader in the back-to tank. Obviously, when Darth Vader, with all of his injuries that he gets, he goes to the back-to tank, he heals up, and he's ready for, obviously, more after that. Abdul Carter, I'm guessing, is trying to heal up as quickly as possible for next Thursday, the Orange Bowl against either Georgia or Notre Dame, because they're going to need Abdul Carter. Right?
Yeah.
This is not an injury you're like, oh, well, listen, they played great against Boise State, they could do it again. No, when you go up against Notre Dame or Georgia, you're going to need your superstar, top 5 pick edge defender. So hopefully Abdul Carter, I think it was a shoulder injury they're saying for him. Hopefully he's healthy enough for that, but they're going to need number 11 out there again.
Absolutely. No, he's their best player. The only other one you could argue is Tyler Warren, but Carter's the best player, I would bet, on their entire team, at least their entire defense. I mean, he's a special football player, and I think the fact that they did get through this game without him says a lot about the rest of the defense too. You know, we keep mentioning Vanover playing in place of him a lot in this game. He was spectacular. I think you're right, though, when you're talking about, with Georgia, you have to win off the edge, right? The tackles are a little bit weaker than the interior, and I think Carter is one of the few guys coming off the edge in college football who could probably catch Riley Leonard in a mobile situation like that. So it's going to be huge. His health is going to be a big thing to watch going forward.
What was the most impressive part of the Penn State win for you?
So you talked about their D-line a lot on one side, but their offensive line, I thought, had their best game of the season too. And I know it's Boise State, it's Group of 5, whatever, but it's a huge spot. And we've seen, we've mentioned Kaytron Allen being on the absolute heater he's on, but Penn State's offensive line, best overall grade of the season, best run blocking grade of the season. I believe it was their second best pass pro grade of the season. Along with their offensive line, we only charged their front 5 with 4 pressures.
Wow.
All night, and a 12.9% pressure rate. I mean, you get Drew Aller making these, you give him time back there and space to work with, we know he can make every throw on the field. He's got a rifle for an arm. The 2 touchdowns to Tyler Warren were great. The Amari Evans touchdown. I mean, he's a vertical passer who needs time in the pocket, right? And they gave him that, along with just, I thought, especially in the first half, just blowing holes open in the run game. So, Penn State's offensive line, if they can put together another effort or two like this, now, again, Georgia or Notre Dame is going to be a huge step up from Boise State in their D-line, which is good. They got a good pass rush. They were among the nation's leaders in sacks. But if they can gel together now, especially in the run game, I think that's what we've seen is I think it's been simplified a little bit more than it was early in the season. I think now Andy Kotelnicki's taken a little more straightforward approach, especially with the way Kaytron's running. You just keep handing him the ball and let him find it. But I thought their offensive line was terrific. Penn State really controlled this game on both sides in the trenches.
So they had a dominant offensive line and a dominant running back. Most impressive has to be Kaytron Allen. He had the night that many people expected Ashton Ginty to have against Penn State. 17 carries for Kaytron Allen for 134 yards, 89 yards after contact. He forced 9 missed tackles as well for a 53% forced missed tackle rate. He's a very physical running back. He's a downhill punishing type of running back. And you just mentioned it, the Penn State offensive line was physically dominant in this game. Too much for Boise State to handle between the offensive line being that physical, Kaytron Allen being that physical. He bullied them in the trenches. Honestly, Penn State bullied them in the trenches on both sides of the ball. I thought Andy Kotelnicki, we got a comment in the chat that I kind of agree with from Joe Mama 87 saying Andy Kotelnicki got a little cute against Boise State. I kind of agree with that. There's, early in the game, they were getting anything they wanted in the ground game. And I mentioned in our preview, the duo is really what Penn State has been running a lot this year, and Boise State's been really struggling a lot this year, and it was working in that first quarter. Drew Aller fumbled on a handoff, I believe, to Kaytron Allen, and that kind of stalled the offense for that drive. And then they started to get cute a little bit, a lot of passes, a lot of reverses, a lot of trick plays. It's like, dude, just get downhill on them. Like, it's working really well. So, honestly, 17 carries for $134 for Kaytron Allen, a terrific day. It could have been a lot more if they kept the foot on the gas a little bit more than I think they should have in this game. But the Thunder and Lightning pairing that you have between Kaytron Allen and Nick Singleton is producing elite results right now for Penn State's offense. You combine that with an NFL quarterback in Drew Aller and a superstar tight end in Tyler Warren and an offensive line that you just said is protecting really well as well. This is a dangerous offense to go along with a top-notch defense, and why Penn State is one of the Final Four teams in college football and could be playing for a national championship if they win the Orange Bowl against either Notre Dame or Georgia as well. So this run game is so massive because I think at times last year you didn't have the dominant run game because the offensive line wasn't really playing all that great. This year you have it. Now you got Drew Aller playing really well. Now you got Tyler Warren, an absolute superstar. I really am seeing this Penn State offense and a really good offensive coordinator overall in Andy Kolnick, even though I thought he didn't have his best game against Boise State. But this is a dangerous offense now. If you get a guy like Kaytron Allen and Nick Singleton had a big run, he had a good day as well. This is a dangerous Penn State offense now.
Absolutely. I think the biggest obstacle for me, there's two things I saw on the tape in this game, and I know Evans had the big touchdown, but I think the two obstacles between Penn State and a national title are still the weakness at wide receiver. I think it's very, very inconsistent, and Drew Aller often has to throw absolutely perfect balls.
And they were still dropped.
Yeah.
Two of his big-time throws were dropped, weren't they? Yeah. One by Warren.
At least one of them, yeah. I mean, it's just that's where it's at with their wide receivers. Is that's going to be the fun part in the matchup against either of the two teams they're going to play. Is the two teams that they have very good secondaries, very good man coverage on the outside, and there's going to be the focus on Warren.
And excellent safeties.
And terrific safeties.
Excellent safeties.
Absolutely.
That could take away Tyler Warren. Not take away, but obviously they're matched up well.
I think Georgia especially. I think Warren versus Starks is a heavyweight matchup.
Even KJ Bolden, Xavier Watts of Notre Dame. It's nasty.
It's you have better threats over the middle defensively for those teams. Eventually here, somebody's going to have to make consistent plays on the outside for Penn State. The other thing, too, is the pass protection. It was really good. The one thing I did see is Boise State brought a lot of heat with the blitzes, and I think they do need to pick up blitzes a little bit better. When they brought a four-man rush, it was lights out. Boise stood no chance. Aller had all day in the pocket to throw, but I think blitz pickups are going to be big, especially when you think about Notre Dame and Georgia being two of the heavier blitz teams in college football as well.
Absolutely. So Penn State winning the Fiesta Bowl, beating Boise State 31-14. They will play either Georgia or Notre Dame in the college football playoff semifinals in the Orange Bowl that I believe I will be trying to go to, Dawn. I think me and my family are trying to get down there to Miami. I'm trying my best to get down there. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, it's insane to me as a lifelong Penn State fan that Penn State's playing for a national title, and if they win this next game, so it's crazy. But hey, thanks for watching another episode of the PFF College Football Show. Please make sure you guys subscribe to the channel.
Also, subscribe to PFF Plus at subscribe.pff.com for all of the same data and grades that we use in our show, plus fantasy tools, betting tools, and our mock draft simulator.